Speaking about a day late and dollar short, let's talk about my favorite person.
Oh.
AOC.
Oh, yeah.
Fam.
So
what's going on with your girl?
Okay, so I don't know why nobody's talking about this yet, because I have so much to say about this. Because, like I said, we're already hashtag Fash Squad is what we are. AOC claims trauma, right? She claimed that she experienced trauma during the Capitol insurrection. And I'm quoting that because the insurrection is what they call it. I call it the mob that stormed the Capitol. And basically, I'm going to go over basically what she said, and then we're going to watch little bits of her whole live stream. I watched the whole thing. We're not going to watch the whole thing here. But basically, she shared on her IG Live that she is a survivor of sexual assault. Now, I take that seriously. As a woman, I have been sexually assaulted. Most women have. Most women, have been sexually assaulted in one way or another. Now, she says that this is part of the reason that she has waited to tell her story of her experience during the Capitol insurrection, because she is used to not being believed. She said this 1 week before the insurrection, she was getting texts that she needed to be careful, specifically on the 6th. And then in a deeply relatable move, AOC said she was singing Nina Simone and feeling great after Ossoff and Warnock won in Georgia just before the insurrection began. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna laugh. Then after 1 p.m., AOC said she heard a boom. I hear these huge violent bangs on my door, and then every door going into my office. This is harrowing. AOC, she said she was told to run and hide. She jumped to the bathroom, closed the door, and realized she should have hid it in the closet. She opened the door to run across to the closet and could hear that someone had gotten into her office. And then while she was hiding, she heard, "Where is she?" And people were screaming. She said she thought she was going to die. And then she broke down in tears on her Instagram Live, talking about her state of mind when she thought she might die if she had fulfilled her purpose. But this is the part that I wanted to highlight. Then she says that the man turned out to be a Capitol police officer, but he was looking at her with anger and hostility, and he was there without a partner. Something did not feel right. She wasn't sure if she was projecting. It felt like a zombie movie. Eventually, she ended up in Katie Porter's office, and then she started getting choked up about how the staffers put themselves between the mob people and the representatives. And she says accountability is necessary for safety. There is no accountability, therefore no safety. She said, quote, "You want to be president so bad that you're going to allow your own colleagues' lives to be in danger," calling out the craven ambitions of people like Cruz and Hawley. So so we're going to watch what she said, but just keep in mind, if this is her experience of what happened, right? And she had all this trauma, why did she just come out and talk about this assault now when she's talking about the Capitol riots and then somehow tying it to her assault? And then also on top of that, she is politicizing this her now personal issue of sexual assault that I respect and I can empathize with, but that has nothing to do with what happened at the Capitol at all in any way, shape, or form. She's using that to push a certain reaction out of people. And then she's going to go on to say the Republicans did this and they have to go. So at the end, what you have is what it feels like to me, in my personal opinion, that it feels like it is a PR narrative. She always goes on Instagram Live to basically spew a certain narrative, right? This isn't the first time she's done this. And I personally do not believe that she's genuine in her political narrative. I'm not going to question her sexual assault story because I'm not here to question that. I'm empathetic on that regard. But to me, the issue is the political manipulation and the tying it. So we can watch. Johnny, you can start some of it at 3:30.
They're trying to tell us that it wasn't a big deal. They're trying to tell us to move on without any accountability, without any truth telling, or without actually confronting the extreme damage, physical harm, loss of life, and trauma that was inflicted on not just me as a person, not just other people as individuals, but on all of us as a collective and on many other people. And that we cannot move on without accountability. We cannot heal without accountability. And so all of these people who want to tell us to move on are doing so at their own convenience. The other thing that I want to say is that to friends and loved ones close to me, I want to apologize to them in advance. Sorry if my voice is shaking, but if you are learning things about me in the course of this live that you didn't know before, and it's not, a thing about hiding or anything like that, but, sometimes you just can't tell the same story over.
Okay, so she was mentioning accountability, and that there can't be moving forward without accountability. We have been saying that on the show forever to the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Well, there's no unity without accountability. Pasta specifically, kept saying that for the last 3 years. There's no unity without accountability because the Democratic Party always wants to unite with wants progressives to fall in line, right?
Yeah.
But they don't offer any accountability. Has there been fucking accountability at all to having healthcare during a fucking pandemic? No, there's been no accountability to that. Has there been any accountability to protecting the integrity of our elections? There's been zero accountability to that. Has there been any fucking accountability with the protecting of speech freedoms and journalists like Julian Assange? There's been zero accountability from the Democrats on that. Has there been any accountability with the fact that they fucking lied, right? Joe Biden right now is on record, and the Democratic Party, Ossoff and Warnock, who you were so excited about, are on record for saying that the people were going to get $2,000 checks as soon as Joe Biden won, as soon as they won the Senate. They're on record for lying and doing that. Has there been fucking accountability for that? There's been no fucking accountability for that. So why would I not feel a little bit pissed off that right now all we're doing is focusing on AOC's trauma when millions and millions of Americans live in trauma every fucking day? Yeah. And they're not representatives, and they don't have health care to go see a fucking therapist because they can't afford it. And so when you're over here making this about you, and it's not about me, but I'm going to put myself in the fucking limelight in the front and center and make this whole thing about me and offer zero solutions to anything going on right now, that weirdly enough, coincidentally enough, people are really angry at Democrats right now. And along comes AOC with this story. I'm sorry. We're going to play more of it, but I just want to hear your thoughts on that, Pasta.
Well, I'm kind of sitting back and waiting on this particular one situation because it is a touch situation as a white male to kind of talk about when a woman says that she has been sexually assaulted and that she felt for her life. And, listen, I don't want to ever take away from anybody who's been felt like their life was threatened and the fear that comes with that and the trauma that comes with it. But I don't know what at one point in time where the political class thought that they were the protected class, okay?
Right.
I don't know when this happened, and I'm very sympathetic to what happened, but you're supposed to be their leader, then lead. This is not leadership, okay? When you're sitting there and you're pointing the finger across the aisle at Republicans with no proof that they did anything like this to try to get you set up to be killed and whatnot. I mean, I know who's scared and traumatized, and you talked about it, fam. It's the 750,000 homeless people living in America. They're scared and traumatized. The She Does movement, where women are living on the streets who are sexually assaulted at the tune of 80% of them. How scared and traumatized do you think they are? How about the 50,000 people who get bombs dropped them every year from the Congress that appropriates that money and says it's okay to do this? How scared and traumatized do you think those people are? The 80% of the Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck who need that $2,000, and you're not holding your party accountable for saying things? How scared and traumatized do you think they are? You're supposed to be their leader. You're supposed to be their representative. They're not yours. And I'm sympathetic to what you went through, but I can only say that a 14-year-old girl living in a cave in Afghanistan probably would look at the events that happened on January 6th as almost a picnic. And I'm not downplaying the situation, but there are a lot of people out there in this world who are scared and traumatized, and we need you to get the power to lead and help these people out. That's why you're there. You're supposed to be putting your life on the line for your constituents. So lead. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive, fam, but that's the way I kind of feel.
No, you're being kind. And to me, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's okay for the U.S. to go in and literally murder civilians via drones, via bombs, via sanctions. You don't see those pictures, that fucking trauma that those people live with every single day. You don't see, because it doesn't matter, because they're not deified celebrities, politicians that have been put on this pedestal that they cannot no longer be criticized. By doing this, AOC can no longer be criticized, because now when you criticize AOC, oh my God, you're a sexist. Oh my God, you're a misogynist. Oh my God, you're this. And that is what the right hates about the neoliberal and neo-progressive left. You give them more fodder to dismiss those issues when they're real and they happen. To dismiss, to tie this. Everybody's different. You can talk about your sexual assault publicly if that's what you wish to do. But as a congresswoman, she didn't have to do that. She could have just said, this was a traumatic experience and blah, blah, blah. But now she's making it political by saying the Republicans did this to me. Oh, see, I'm going to tie the Republicans to my sexual assault, even though that has nothing to do with it.
The Trumpers are domestic terrorists.
The Trumpers, they need to be removed. Like, so then I can't trust that this is just about your issue, because now you put a political narrative behind it. So then it seems disingenuous to me. And that's the only reason. It's not because it's just because I don't like AOC. It's not even about liking her. I just don't trust her. Yeah. And the things she has done, she always manages to weaponize this about herself. And I've known way too many people in this movement who are exactly like that. To be able to recognize it when I see it.
And when BLM was in the streets and Antifa was in the streets and you had all the right-wingers and the right-wing networks like, what are they doing? They're burning stuff down. They're angry. They're getting mad, whatnot. The left said, well, it's just our form of political speech. Why don't you understand why they're upset? Same thing with them on the right. Okay, why are these people so upset? Why were they so upset that they did storm the castle? You know what I'm saying?
And why were they let in? They were let in. The government had info. They let them fucking in. Let's stop this bullshit narrative like that they didn't know this was going to happen. They knew. She even says it in her live stream. Oh, we had warnings that this, then whose fault is that? The people who were supposed to protect you, AOC, didn't fucking protect you.
Yeah.
Johnny, if you can start it around 8.
And those homeless people we talk about, they can't even go home and take a shower. And, how mentally ill on the streets. Look at their trauma and what they're facing right now. It's terrible. We need to help these people out immediately.
Or my favorite, this past week, Ted Cruz and now Representatives Chip Roy and, oh, by the way, some of the other representatives who actually encouraged people to threaten members of Congress or tweeted out the location of the speaker are now telling me to apologize for saying and speaking truth to what happened. These are the tactics of abusers. Or rather, these are the tactics that abusers use. And so when I see this happen, how I feel and how I felt was not again. I'm not going to let this happen again. I'm not going to let it happen to me again. I'm not going to let it happen to the other people who've been victimized by this situation again. And I'm not going to let this happen to our country. Ever. I'm not going to let it happen. And so, as I said, as I've kind of said earlier, is that the other reason why I have hesitated to tell this story has to do with some of that trauma. As a survivor, I struggle with the idea of being believed. And what's odd is that I am in a job where people are constantly calling me untruthful or that I'm exaggerating, etc. So there's a great irony in that. But the reason why I think it's important for us to hold this to account is that because we know that if we do not hold people accountable, what they're asking for when they say, can we just move on, is that what they are asking is, can we just forget this happened so that I can do it again without recourse? And that's what these folks are asking. The folks who are saying we should move on, we shouldn't have accountability, etc., are saying, can you just forget about this so that we can, do it again? Because that's what we're asking when we don't actually hold to account. And, in these past 3 weeks...
Okay.
It's like we're asking her to be held accountable for giving us the health care she won.
Yeah.
Her, let's just move on. Let's forget about it. Like, you don't have to be held accountable for bringing to the people what you campaigned on, what you ran on, your number one issue, that you said you would go out there and fight for.
Yep.
For those people who were traumatized and scared on the streets. But you want accountability for this situation when you're making half of it up? Not about your sexual assault. I'm talking about the Republicans.
Right.
Like, you don't have proof that they went and planned this shit against you.
If she had proof that happened, there would be, and I know that there's some sort of lawsuit that they're trying to file, but if you have proof, by all means prove it, and by all means go for it. But I have yet to see any definitive proof that somebody said, hey, we're going to kill AOC. Like, we're going to go after AOC. There hasn't been actual proof of that. She's over here just politicizing this whole thing, and because she added the element of her sexual assault, which people are going to be sympathetic to, especially people on the left, then now it's like when I'm going after her for her hypocrisy that we just saw of the whole accountability thing, then it's like, oh well, no, you're a misogynist or you're sexist or you're dismissing somebody's sexual assault. I can't believe you. You can't. Nothing you say matters anymore, because now it's on the emotional tangent of she's I don't know why you're attacking. I'm not attacking that. I'm attacking her hypocrisy here and her politicizing this whole situation that has nothing to do with her sexual assault. She just threw that in there to make a point.
Yeah.
If you go to 12 minutes, then that's when she starts telling some of the story.
Happened suddenly, that we couldn't see it coming, and that it was like just this outburst, and all of a sudden a bunch of people rushed the Capitol. I want to dispel with that notion very quickly, because everybody knew that something was going to happen. And again, I do not speak for any other. Let me actually rewind this. And I'll try to recenter. And again, as I said, thank you for your patience here. But what I'm about to tell you is my account, how I perceive things with my eyes, my ears, my nose, my mouth, my body. I cannot speak for what anyone else saw, etc., unless there was someone in the room with me. But here's what I will tell you. A week before, 1 week before, the week prior to the insurrection, I started to get text messages that I needed to be careful. And that in particular, I needed to be careful about the 6th. For the timeline for you to know, this Congress got sworn in that Sunday, and the insurrection happened Sunday, then the insurrection happened Wednesday. So there was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I probably started getting text messages about having plans for my safety, or me trying to figure something out about Thursday. And those text messages came from other members of Congress. They were not threats, but they were other members saying that they knew. And that they were hearing even from Trump people and Republicans that they knew in their life that there was violence expected on Wednesday. So that was what I was hearing that prior Thursday. So then that night, Thursday or Friday. So then that night.
Okay, so I just want to go over that a minute, because that was really strange. First of all, like I said before, and like we said on the show, they knew shit was going down.
Yeah.
They knew shit was going down. They had every freaking opportunity to ramp up security. Like I said, when we were at Force the Vote, those days prior, we had cops all over us within minutes, within seconds even. They were there. Yeah. And they were surrounding us. So
over a dozen.
Why?
Yeah.
Way over a dozen.
It was like 20.
It was like 30 cops that one last day. I was counting. It was close to 30.
Yeah.
and we were like 50 people tops,
Yeah.
like 50 people, right? So that is suspect to me that, you know, I'm not saying she did anything. I'm saying like why did they not provide any sort of protection? That other Congress people knew, that other Trump people knew. I mean, all these people knew, and they somehow, she didn't take precautions or other people didn't take precautions. Like, I don't understand. Like, why would you not take precautions? Like, that to me is really weird. And then she like backtracked and was like, you know, I'm not going to speak for anybody or any, like, it was really interesting the way she
Well, the thing that really made me really scared is the fact that the once again, what we talked about with the last show and the last guest is, how do we bridge the gap between people on both sides of the aisle? How do we bring people together? Really, you know, they talk about unity, and we say no unity without accountability. But here's a tactic, I think, where we say, okay, listen, look what happened to me. I was almost killed. I'm the victim. Look who the enemy is. It's the Republicans. Right. It's the Trumpers. It's also anybody who questions elections. That's also been thrown in there as well. Right. And that is a very dangerous rhetoric right now. And if we were really serious about bringing people together, we would say, well, what do we have to do? Why are these people upset? Why are they angry? They don't even have to go back and change the results of the last election or even examine that election. They can just start on working for reforms for the future. But they don't want to do that because they don't want to fix the problem, you know? And therefore, they want to make sure that people are divided and fighting against each other. So that's where this is coming from. And she has been... What's that?
More transparency.
That's exactly. We get more transparency. We can eliminate... One thing, right? The cops can't police themselves. They can't investigate themselves. Let's just eliminate proprietary software. Right there. Let's start right there. That's the two biggest things you eliminate. But they're not even talking about that, fam. Yeah. And what do they want, Johnny? They want people pitted against each other. And she's the number one mechanism for that right now. It's the Republicans are bad. Trumpers are bad. Domestic terrorism. Adam Schiff's going to come with the policy and the warmongering mentality. Yeah. But facilitating this is AOC. And it's very, very dangerous. And her playing the victim even brings more people into the fold, and they're going to sympathize with her and look at other people as the enemy. There's no. I saw somebody put yesterday, there's no working with these people whatsoever, meaning Trumpers or Republicans. It's like, hello, like we're going to be even further divided over here.
And that's the thing. And like, that's all they need is somebody like AOC to convince even some of the left that has been critical of her. Oh no, like you can't touch her now because she has this sexual assault coming out story, which is something that she shouldn't have conflated with what happened at the Capitol because it didn't happen then. So her conflating it is weaponizing it for a political narrative. And I don't like that because as somebody that takes that really seriously, it diminishes people who have experienced it, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. Did you want to play any more of it, or
no? Fam, I do want to say that perhaps that the fear she felt was, you know, quote, triggered the previous fear that she felt when she was sexually abused. So I want to say that. So maybe that's how she related it, right? Is that what she?
Well, that's what people would say. Like, and that's what she's saying. That you know, that fear of that was triggered by the trauma she felt by the insurrection. Now, you know, you could say that at the same time. Where was that empathy and that ability when it came to Tara Reid?
I was about to say,
when it came to voting for Joe Biden,
yeah.
It didn't trigger you to vote for a man who is accused by multiple women of sexual assault, who has a record of being this segregationist, like 1994 crime bill, Mr. like this racist. He says that this record is a racist, and you're over here talking about Republicans being that. It just doesn't stick up to the consistency of it. Sure, I will give her that. I think like that could definitely be a trigger when you're experiencing trauma. It can definitely bring something back. I'm not gonna question her experience as a sexual assault survivor. But what I am questioning is that she always, at this every single time, she ends up tying this directly to Republicans are bad. Trumpers are bad. They need to go. Da, 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 da. So, like, if she wasn't saying that, if she was just saying, oh, yeah, like, you know, this trauma triggered, blah, 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 and I think all of those culpable should be, you know, prosecuted and blah, blah, blah. But she goes further and says, names all these names, Ted Cruz,
Yeah.
Holly, and then like focuses the people's emotions and visceral reactions to her experience, which, to anybody that doesn't know anything sounds, oh my God, like poor girl, like she was scared.
Right.
And that is manipulative to me.
Well,
and I hate that.
Let me think in the mindset of a Democrat who loves AOC, right?
Right.
So you hate Republicans, and then AOC is blaming those Republicans.
Yeah.
And you also, believe women. So then I could see how, why some people are really like, listening and grasping onto the story,
Right.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
No, you're making some great points there, brother, because
I just want to see into the mind of some people,
But that's who she's going for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but how do we change those people?
that's hard to change those people, because those people are the people who are left over, who are pretty much, they stand by the ideology based upon emotions, what feels good,
right.
what not. So those are the people she's kind of talking to. People who I saw that were responding back to what she was saying, they were getting triggered in the same way, not looking into the deep nuance of what's going on.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
but
saying?
you guys are talking about, you guys are bringing up great points though. That these are facts, right? That there's not evidence that any of those senators actually
Whatsoever.
wanted to go after AOC or said any of that, right?
Yeah.
So,
and those two senators are what, Johnny? Those are the two senators on the right who've spoken out against election integrity more than any of them. Holly
for election
integrity. I'm sorry, for election integrity than any of them. Holly was the one who made the point that he's going to stand up and he's going to object on that day, on the 6th, and then Ted Cruz follows suit and brought a bunch of other senators with him. So these are two people right now who they're saying we should get rid of anybody, should be sanctioned or got in fact expelled, who were bringing up the elections, whatnot, because they're tying it into the same thing of the violence, whatnot. They're saying that was the mechanism which led people to be violent and the attack on the
right. And her anger and vitriol is aimed towards the Republicans when it really should be towards her security. Who was in charge of the security that day? If it's their job to protect the Congress people at the Capitol, why was there so little people there?
Yeah, where were they?
Like
they were protecting the
for
the
weeks.
cops
They knew about this.
There was more people at our rally than there were more cops at our rally.
For real,
really?
No, for real.
Yeah, Amityville, shut up.
And I just I mean, so then she goes on to recount the whole thing that we just went over. She was really upset and all of that. So we don't. I mean, you guys can watch it on your own. Basically, she blames Republicans basically some more, and talks about how they we need accountability. This can't be like this. The same thing she said. I'm not going to let this happen again. Like that was very dramatic.
I'm not going to let this happen again. Like this situation. There's a lot more worse things going on. You maybe should never let a bomb be dropped on Yemen ever again. Make sure there's no sanction. Make sure you don't push for a white nationalist in Russia anymore. And make sure that doesn't happen again. There's a lot of things that shouldn't happen again. And let me tell you what triggers me. When I go out to Skid Row, all I have to do is walk around there for 15 minutes, and I am as triggered as can be, because you see some real suffering, and it keeps growing and growing and growing, and you're the people in charge of fixing this problem, and yet you want to stay fixated on this, and you just want to say, oh, we shouldn't move on.
Right.
We have to stay right over here.
Right.
Oh, there's people about to be thrown out of their houses right over there. Maybe we should get over there first and fix this situation.
She hasn't talked about any of that stuff, and I just want to read her tweets. She posted her tweet.
And real quick, fam, for people who might not know the power that someone who's in AOC's position has, like, look at RFK's documentary of how he went down to protest and how he went to Louisiana when it was like the poorest state in the union, and people, kids were starving. There were starving kids in the United States, and he made a big deal about that, and he went and did something about it,
No, he went down there and he asked the right questions, and he was even just opening eyes. Remember when he asked the gentleman if he knew about the programs? He's like, all right, there's these programs out here, but here's another thing, Americans, these people don't know how to access these programs. They don't have the means to access these programs. That's why we talk about a free, fair, and internet and municipal internet, so people can access these programs and access this help. That's what a real leader does. Get down there. Not to talk crap on AOC anymore. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, she's going to get held accountable. So, she said, my story isn't the only story, nor is it the central story of what happened on January 6th. It's just one story of many of those whose lives were endangered at the Capitol by the lies, threats, and violence fanned by the cowardice of people who chose personal gain above democracy. This right here, this bottom paragraph to me, complete and total theatrics. Complete and total theatrics. There's no accountability about what, completely ignoring the election,
why people were
the
pissed.
lack of integrity in our elections in general, whether it's now or before, whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be about Trump, but like there's been a general lack of integrity in our elections, completely ignoring the fact that people are poor and people haven't gotten a fucking stimulus that they should have gotten, completely ignoring the fact that people are at their breaking point.
Yeah.
So, and now it's just, the cowardice of the other side. Ooh, like AOC, guys, AOC was supposed to be there to take down the Democratic Party.
Not prop it up.
And not prop it up and become its main weapon. Like this is not what she's supposed to be. We already didn't like the Republicans on the left. You didn't have to convince me that they were bad.
Yeah.
The point was for AOC to go and attack the fucking Democratic Party and bring in a wave of actual opposition to the status quo. She has become the status quo. Why am I so angry? Because I expected better from her. And I guess that's my own fault for expecting better from a leftist, because
I expected too.
I shouldn't have believed in somebody.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. This is why I'm so angered by it, because it's like I see a person that is manipulative and that is very, very much narcissistically putting the attention on themselves. And then she says, thanks for making the space for me. I hope we can all make space for others to tell their stories in the weeks to come. And to those who wish to paper over their misdeeds by rushing us all to move on, who can move on when the individuals responsible are held to account? Who can move on when the individuals responsible are like, I think she meant aren't held to account? Because to me it's like, how can we move on? Like who
does she want to hold to account to, by the way?
What about the accountability by these to these politicians, to the American people? Like, why aren't you fighting for the people? Why is this now about you? Like, I just have a problem with big egos like that.
And she hasn't even she hasn't become not just become the status quo, she's become the guardian of the status quo.
The dog,
and that's
the attack dog.
really, really scary.
And so then, of course, I have the pros, the reactions that were supportive of her, and the cons, and then Tara Reid's account. So Mondaire Jones, who's somebody else that got elected, who is another typical, boutique left type of guy that got elected. He said, I shared AOC's concern about being locked in the same room as my Republican colleagues on January 6th. So he was scared because he was locked in the same room with the Republicans. They had incited an insurrection and were live tweeting our whereabouts. Some of them continue to pose a threat to everyone who works in the Capitol. They must be expelled. So then we get to the core point of the whole thing that she's saying. We need to expel these people. We want to get these people out. Okay, so let's hear what he says.
Republican members like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, she was afraid to be in the room with them because she thought the location could be betrayed by them.
And for good reason. I shared her concern. In that room, there was an announcement made by the respective caucus chairs, Hakeem Jeffries and Liz Cheney, that members in that room were live tweeting and otherwise doing interviews revealing our location. Despite having been instructed for obvious reasons that frankly should not have required instruction, not to disclose the whereabouts of 200 members of Congress who had just narrowly escaped a massacre in the House chamber minutes before. You cannot trust a number of these people, and that is an extraordinary thing to say about your colleagues in the United States Congress. But the fact is that a number of these people, in addition to having incited that violent insurrection that we saw, likely were coordinating more explicitly with these people, and the investigation is ongoing. And every day we learn more about the level of involvement of a number of our colleagues.
Okay, so this whole thing is to say, oh yeah, they were coordinating with no evidence, like that they were coordinating attacks. Now, do I put it past Republicans to coordinate attacks and to do something? No. But I also think that based on what we've seen in the documents and the money set out to rebuild the Capitol and all the warnings that they had, that this is a much deeper operation than the right wingers doing it, and the level of how quick the legislation is there to push this whole new war on domestic terrorism and the censorship. To me, it does scream inside workings, but it's not on one party. It's on the establishment that benefits from this. And meanwhile, AOC gets to tell her story. And then what are we talking about? We're talking about AOC's story. We're not talking about that America is a fucking failed state and that people are suffering right now. And we're focused on expelling Republicans, impeaching Trump, all these things that are completely irrelevant divisive, but even more irrelevant to the fact that Americans are suffering right now.
Go ahead.
So I just want to read some of people's reactions because this is why I think AOC is dangerous.
Twitter reacts.
Because this person said one of the many important points AOC made on IG was that without accountability, when given the opportunity, Cruz and Holly will do it again. She's absolutely right. We'll do what again? Like, what do you mean? What do what?
Let me put it up right there next to it.
Okay.
No, the one to the left there. Oh, one over, right here.
To the right. Okay.
Sorry.
So Katie Porter also recounted how she and AOC were hiding in her office. Let's hear Katie Porter, who we've known for a while here on the show.
Did you know just how deep Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's fears were at that time?
Well, at first she saw me, and we waved. I went into my office, and a couple seconds later, she knocked and she said, could we come in? And I said, of course. And she began to, her staffer was trying to describe what had happened. And Alex is really usually like unfailingly polite and very personable. And she wasn't even really talking to me. She was opening up doors. And I was like, can I help you? Like, what are you looking for? And she said, I'm looking for where I'm going to hide. And the thing that will always stay with me, the two memories that really, especially as a mom, I think were just really powerful for me was when she said, I was saying, well, don't worry. I'm a mom. I'm calm. I've got everything here we need. We could live for like a month in this office. And she said, I just hope I get to be a mom. I hope I don't die today. And the second thing is she was wearing heels. And I remember her saying to me, I was wearing flats. And I remember her saying to me, I knew I shouldn't have worn heels. How am I going to run? And we went and we found her a pair of sneakers to wear from one of my staffers so that she could run if she needed to literally run for her life.
How long?
Okay. So I don't know, just your reaction to that.
Damn, there was like a whole media thing about this.
Yeah, right.
I didn't know that. So that changes it completely because when the mainstream media focuses on something,
Yeah.
propaganda, right?
The
there.
mainstream media will never, ever, ever prop up a woman of like who is an underdog, who is actually an underdog, but a threat to them, a threat to the status quo, who is actually going out there and really threatening their livelihood. The mainstream media doesn't prop up people like that. The fact that the mainstream media is propping up not just AOC, but her story and interviewing multiple people about her story, multiple people in Congress that have the same objective to take these Republicans out. I don't give a crap about Ted Cruz or anything about him, but to actually weaponize this story to try to make the point that, oh, he threatened your life and now we have to expel them, and then also election integrity can never be talked about, is a problem to me, because now you're conflating your politics with this story and using people's emotions to do like, and the media is like, the media loves AOC. The mainstream media propaganda machine loves AOC. The mainstream media propaganda machine would not love AOC if she was a threat to them. It's just a fact. They wouldn't, they haven't. And we're going to talk about how they treated Tara Reade by comparison, because that is a woman that explicitly said Joe Biden sexually assaulted me and described it at every point, and nobody wanted to interview her in the mainstream.
Yeah. And by the way, super chat people who got some stuff to say, don't worry, we'll get to you. I see your comments over there, and I see you disagree when it comes to certain things. When we get to election integrity, we'll blow that up when we get a chance. Let's stick on the story though, fam. Who's this Hillary Holly? What did she say?
So like I said, here are some people's reactions.
I want to say something about this one here.
If AOC's IG live tonight proves anything, it's this: we must invest in trauma therapy and mental health support for those who work in politics, especially staffers of color. This past election cycle caused serious trauma that will never go away ever.
So we should only support therapy, trauma therapy, and mental health for people who work in politics. How about we do that for all of our citizens? How about AOC goes to fight for Medicare for all to give people that invest in that therapy and that mental health issue that was one of the biggest issues out there, why people are homeless, why some people commit crimes and stuff was their mental health. How about we invest in all of them? Here's AOC failing to go out and fight for Medicare for all, but yet you want to say let's go fight for her for and people in politics. When did they become the protected class? They're supposed to be working for us.
It's like you guys want to like fucking lick the boot of your monarchs. That's what it feels like to me. Oh yeah, let's invest. What the fuck? People are dying because they can't afford their insulin.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking kidding me? No, we're gonna invest in the American people. I don't give a shit. She gets paid $175,000 a year plus her speaking fees, plus her appearances everywhere else. And you want me to care about her fucking therapy? Tell her to go fucking get therapy. Please, therapy is good. Everybody should go to fucking therapy. I'm not dismissing that.
Most people can't afford therapy.
Most people can't afford it because we don't have fucking health care. So I don't understand this need to lick the boot so thoroughly. Jesus Christ. Oh,
Ames.
She said, just watched AOC's IG live documentary about the insurrection, and I am absolutely horrified. Hold them accountable. So again, she's spewing the same narrative. Hold them accountable.
They should watch. You know what you should watch? Watch the story of how Libya's turned into a slave state, propagandized. Oh, that's Jen Dyes. You were there in the right one to the left there.
Oh, yeah. I put that one in?
Yep, not me. Go ahead and watch the story about what happened in Libya by people like Joe Biden and their choices, whatnot.
Oh, yes. So now this is the against. This is the cons. So this person said below Jen Dyes' tweet, which I obviously disagree with, I don't care about AOC's tears. Where was she when Tara Reade made similar accusations against Biden? She was doing everything she could to sheep herd voters to voting for that piece of shit. The Me Too movement died with Biden's election because it proved what a farce. That is somebody's opinion right there. The next one, gay unemployed waiter. He said, sorry about AOC and her trauma, but millions are losing everything and she needs to get a therapist. Lucky she has amazing health care and do her job or quit, but turning everything into a brand building exercise is getting boring. Again, it does feel like a brand building exercise. It absolutely 100% does.
Let me get this for you now. So,
and then, that one.
This here?
Yeah. I think it was the one before that, actually.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, you're there. Look at it.
Okay. When I don't have healthcare and see AOC's IG trending, I don't give a fuck. That's
that one right there.
All right. And the next one is politicians are tools, nothing more. How many days has it been since AOC expressed concern for your mental health and trauma by fighting for Medicare for all?
Yep. We said this. Boom.
Let's retweet that one. That was
Thank
great. And then the next one.
That's it right there.
It's mine.
Yours.
Okay.
Shameless plug.
Okay. So here's my point, right? Because I want to make sure people don't take my words out of context because I know they will. I can empathize with AOC's trauma, but this isn't about her. And I know she said it's not, but she is doing everything showing the opposite. Millions are traumatically losing jobs, their homes, unable to buy insulin, or dying because of this for-profit healthcare system while our government bombs others in our name. You can't forget that part because Americans always forget that part. That's the traumatic reality we live in. We live in trauma every day. People can't pay their rent. People don't know what they're going to live. We don't have health care. We don't have all these things. I'm sorry. It is a very privileged point of view to take to say, oh, AOC's trauma has to be put pretty much at the front and center. Now, Tara Reade is somebody I respect very much because she came out and got brutally attacked unfairly for telling her story about Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden doesn't have her only. He has a plethora of other accusations as well as his own record that we can look back onto policy-wise, right? And Tara Reade wrote an op-ed, and her op-ed tweet basically said, I believe AOC when she said she is a survivor of sexual assault. Why could she not say the same about me? And I don't know why it's not coming up, but basically she talks about how when initially, and she did it for RT, so call her a Russian bot. Nobody really wanted to interview her. She said the Congresswoman's revelations about her trauma have been unquestionably believed by the media, yet I could barely get anyone to listen to me when I spoke out. Once again, it seems #MeToo only applies when politically convenient. As I watched AOC's online discussions about trauma and being afraid for her life at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., I felt compassion and the pain of recognition. I had something dark and life-altering happen to me there, something that shattered my future until I finally spoke out. And I just want to read a part of it. Instead of support from Me Too and AOC or any Democrat, I was silenced and shamed for even daring to speak my history. Joe Biden was placed in his present position of commander-in-chief, and my messy, inconvenient story was shoved under the recess while New York Times, Newsweek, and other mainstream media lavish propagandized praise on Joe Biden. I will not call him president. Respect must be earned, and this man violated me, then covered it up, and then went to lengths to silence me. Joe Biden will always be that arrogant, insecure man with greasy hair plugs and cold hands who took my innocence in that hallway at the heart of the country's symbol of democracy. Do I believe AOC? Yes. However, does AOC believe me? On the subject of my assault, she has publicly waffled about my experience being not clear-cut, so as not to upset the sainted Democratic leadership. Time will tell if AOC truly stands with survivors. Do I believe the Democratic Party uses the Me Too movement as a shield and holds it up only when politically convenient? Absolutely. I will believe there is a real movement in America to end rape culture when belief in survivors is not a partisan undertaking. I will believe in the movement when Joe Biden is held accountable and there is a Senate investigation into what happened to me when I worked for him, or a release of his files in the University of Delaware, now sealed out of the FOIA's reach. Until that day, in my view, the hijacked Me Too movement lay strewn among the empty hashtags like political roadkill, forgotten and sad. By coming forward, I had my life threatened, my character smeared, and was called every name imaginable until I was dismissed by certain media. I have even been threatened with prison. However, I will speak about what happened. Nothing will silence me. So I hear you, AOC, about the injustice and trauma you endured. Do you hear me? This is very, very powerful from Tara Reid, and I want to hear you guys' perspective on this because, you're kind of holding back because you don't want, to seem insensitive to the subject as a man, and I totally understand that. But this is me as a woman who has experienced this before, and I think I get really angry when other women weaponize things to get a political narrative because it makes other men not believe real situations when they're expressing something, and it clouds everything with politics when this shouldn't be an issue that's clouded in politics. It should be, sexual assault is a serious issue. It shouldn't be political, and now it's become this political thing that the Democratic Party weaponizes when it's convenient.
Johnny, anything else before we get to the super chats? Fam, great stuff. And I guess we could just wait and see what happens, what not. With this whole situation, I really see more dark days ahead of us when we cannot repair the bridge and both sides are just constantly demonizing each other. And situations like this happen where it's going to, a lot of people, no matter what, the way she tied this whole situation into what happened, it's not helping, and I don't want to seem insensitive, so we'll just have to wait what happens.
Yeah.